We are adding on 8 more points, and we're going to start off with word choice. Subject-verb agreement is pretty straightforward when you're talking about agreeing with the subject in person and number. So you wouldn't say the puppy play outside. You would say the puppy plays outside because it's singular, and you would say the puppies play outside. So just double check to make sure your verb makes sense based on your subject. Now, when it comes to subject and verbs that aren't near each other, the subject of this sentence, for example, is house. So the blue house is on the corner, makes total sense. But when you put the word shutters next to it, since that is plural, it gets to be a little bit confusing. So make sure that you match up the subject and the verb. Much like the next sentence here, it says the houses are owned by the university if it were a simple sentence, but they added in near the park, which is a prepositional phrase. And so when you see the word park, you think the park is nearby, but that's not the subject of the sentence. The subject is houses. So make sure you're looking subject and verb within a sentence and make sure that they match up. Now this last one's very strange, and you want to memorize this rule and look for it on the test. You're going to see it at least once, and you can pick up points for it. The middle one makes total sense. Lexi and Tyler are very talented. That's something you would say, something you would hear. The top and the bottom, however, are different. And the reason is because you have to be able to say either Lexi is going to direct the play or Tyler is going to direct the play. But when you say it all together, it sounds kind of strange. You would probably think either Lexi or Tyler are going to direct the play sounds better, but that's not actually the rule. And that's why when you see neither Lexi nor Tyler thinks rather than think, that's why that's correct as well. Now for the next thing, everything you see on your screen is correct as written. When you see a preposition, and a preposition is a word that helps you to figure out relationship. So if you think about any place a squirrel could hide an acorn, so the squirrel can put the acorn underground in the tree over there next to me, although I don't really want a squirrel next to me, they're kind of scary looking. Either way, however you can memorize prepositions, know to look out for them because they have to be used properly. So for example, I wait on customers if I'm asking them what they want to order for dinner. I don't wait on the bus unless I'm physically on top of the bus or if I'm asking if the bus would like soda or coffee. And then I wait with my friend. If I wait on my friend, then the friend came to the restaurant and I'm taking his or her dinner order. Now when it comes to verbs with idioms, you have to make sure you are using them correctly. So you wouldn't say mules have been known traveling in packs. Mules have been known to travel in packs. And then the child denied knowing who stole the cookie. You wouldn't say the child denied to know who stole the cookie. Although depending on how old the child is, they might agree with that saying. When you find a common idiomatic phrase, it's actually really exciting because you can count on these to be on the test and you can get your points. For example, if you see, not only will I swim, but I will bike for exercise today, you know that's wrong. You need the word also as well. And for barely, hardly, and scarcely, these are actually ways you can run into a double negative. They're correct as written on the screen, but they could be, if they had errors, they might say, I have barely no paper. That's incorrect. You can't hardly see. So the movie Can't Hardly Wait, idiomatically incorrect. And then there are scarcely no cars on the road. That would also be incorrect. So everything you see here is correct as written. For pronoun agreement, again, everything here is correct as written. For gender and number, these are pretty straightforward. So Destiny raised her hand. Miguel reached for his pencil. Those are straightforward. The children, you would say, played their rather than his soccer game. And then the park has 4 soccer fields inside of it, not inside of them. Now for objective and subjective, when you're thinking about who versus whom, knowing prepositions is really helpful. When you see a preposition in front of the word who, then you know it has to actually be the word whom. If you don't see a preposition, then most likely it's going to be the word who. Especially if it's at the beginning of the sentence, it's going to indicate a subject, which is subjective. So let's put this into practice. We don't have anything underlined in the first sentence, so do we skip it? No, you don't. You're going to have a really hard time picking up all your points, especially when you're looking for those big scores in the ACT English section. If you're skipping around, you're going to be missing out on the main idea, you're going to be missing out on connections, and you're just going to actually make it a lot harder for yourself. So read the first and the second sentence, which is in the entire first paragraph. So here we have two questions. Either it needs to be the word from or the word by, as indicated by answer choice B, and either has to be its or has to be there or there. So if you know that has to be plural, you can get rid of A, B, and even C. C is not plural, C is an indication of location. So it has to be answer choice D. So eliminating 3 wrong answers is the same thing as finding 1 right answer. For our next sentence, you can read just that sentence, and you have to figure out idiomatically if it should be manipulated by, with, within, or in. And it's actually in, because that's just the way we say things. So answer choice D was correct for number 1, answer choice J is correct for number 2. And that one just is the way we say things. So memorizing idioms is actually really helpful. And then our final sentence, go ahead and read through that. And we have to determine if it's singular or plural. So if you've decided that it's singular, you can stay with the original. If you decided that it's plural, you can go with answer choice C. Answer choice B and D, don't pick stuff that hasn't been mentioned before. If it's not written in second person or in collective first person, then please don't pick those. Don't invent new things. Correct answer here is answer choice C. It is plural. Word choice altogether is worth 5 points, so practice that. Especially idioms, you can actually pick that as a custom practice set on Crockett. For sentence sense, these aren't bad actually. If you can spot run-ons, and actually fragments are even easier to spot. If it doesn't have a full, complete thought, or if it doesn't have a subject or a verb, then you know it's a fragment, so make sure you fix those. But in terms of run-ons, there are 4 common ways of fixing run-ons. The easiest way, just put a period. Separate those 2 independent clauses. And here they're just separated with a comma, which is not acceptable. You can add in a fanboys, which is for, and, nor, but, or, yet, so. And in this case, it was the word so that we added in. But you can't just have a comma. You can have a semicolon, you can have a period, and you could actually just change around the sentence. So the part that we kept the same was, it was perfect for a picnic is an independent clause. But what we did instead with the first clause is we added the word because, and that will make it a dependent clause. So a comma is totally fine as long as one clause is dependent. For parallel structure, some of these make a lot of sense, like lists. You wouldn't say we should pack sandwiches, cut up fruit, and iced tea for the picnic. Cut up fruit is a whole verb phrase. What we're listing out here are nouns. For compounds, this one is pretty straightforward. We can enjoy hiking, and we wouldn't say to swim. Idiomatic phrases, those come up again. So not only, but also, remember to put in the word also. What you're looking for here, though, is that they match up. So wear sunglasses and apply sunscreen rather than wear sunglasses applying sunscreen. We don't want to split up the way the verbs are stated. And then comparisons, this is another idiomatic phrase. So it's a weird one. Most people would say, I prefer spaghetti over ice cream. Although I don't know anybody would. But it's not over. The word over is a preposition, but it's the wrong preposition in that idiomatic phrase. It should be, I prefer spaghetti to ice cream. So I prefer swimming to hiking. So we're pointing out 2 things. First, the idiomatic phrase, prefer and to, rather than prefer and over. And secondly, they have to be the same. So when I was saying spaghetti and ice cream, those are both nouns. One is more delicious than the other. Here, they're both verbs, and they both end in ing. And then for related nouns, this is an interesting one. So hikers should stretch their legs, because most people have 2 legs and there's more than one hiker. And then make sure you say to prevent injuries rather than just injury, because it's more than one person involved. For modifiers, we are actually really excited about adjectives and adverbs. They're pretty easy to spot, and modifying phrases is where you're going to find you're picking up points that you may not have considered before. So for adjectives and adverbs, just check to see if it's a noun or a pronoun. If it is, then that's an adjective. So you did a good job. You wouldn't say you did a well job, and you wouldn't say that was a quickly run, because you're describing nouns or pronouns. You also don't want to say you scored really good. Oh, please don't say that. And also you ran quick. Oh, no, 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 no. You ran. That's a verb. Please modify that with an adverb. Modifying phrases are a little bit trickier, so here are points that you may not have ever considered before. What would be incorrect, and remember all this is correct as written, what would be incorrect is if you said, standing in the rain, the water soaked me. That would be kind of a weird sentence anyway. But the most important thing is that what comes after that comma is whatever it's modifying. Here's an easier one to think about. Not thinking to bring an umbrella, the rain drenched my sister would be incorrect because that would indicate that the rain forgot an umbrella. My sister forgot an umbrella. So whatever comes after that comma has to be what the modifying phrase is talking about. And that is something that a lot of students haven't considered before, and you can pick up points for that. That's a really exciting thing to look for. Taking a look at 3 questions that we have for you. Read just the first sentence. Now keep in mind that not every sentence is going to have an error. If there is no error, then answer choice A, or sometimes it's labeled as F, is going to be correct. In this case, it is. Now read the second sentence. It doesn't have an underline, but make sure you read it, and then go on and read the third sentence. Here's an example of where they might decide to put in a positive. That's hard to say. If you can take out what we would consider non-essential information. So some versions provide a humorous retelling. Is that a full sentence? Well, or a full part of the sentence? Yes, so we can actually put a comma before the word like and after the word Frankenstein. So answer choice J, because you can read it without that information. Now for the final sentence, or actually it's still the same sentence, for the final part of that sentence, we have to decide what's happening. So some versions like Young Frankenstein provide a humorous retelling of the story, and then a colon. That wasn't in any of our charts today. A colon is going to set off a list, a definition, or a clarification. That's not what's happening. You've got a separate independent clause. So you either need a period, you need a comma fanboys, or a semicolon. And that's what we have. Answer choice C has a semicolon. So when you're looking at sentence sense, understanding what types of punctuation you're going to see and what types of sentences and what complex nature they may have is going to make a big difference in your score. Overall, you added on, it doesn't seem like a lot of points, but these are the what we call nitty-gritty points. These are the points that are going to make a difference in your overall score, especially as you get closer to test day. These are the points you haven't picked up in the past. So for conflicting viewpoints, word choice and sentence sense, one of the easiest things to do is actually just use the study plan, because segments 11 through 13, which are here, 11, 12, 13, those for English, just do those and you'll be done with practicing what we just learned. And then for science, it's not shown in the screenshot, but it's the last 2 right here. The last segments of the study plan are conflicting viewpoints. Get those done and you are going to be in great shape. Now, if you prefer to work with groups, that's absolutely fine. Just look for our little mascot, Taco Pete, and you'll know that I set up that game for you. So hop in anytime. You can set them up on your own as well. Just click create your own. If you have the red book and you prefer to use that, make sure you complete an entire English section. It just has to be 1 practice test, but make sure you get in that practice. And then for science, you can actually figure out which ones are the conflicting viewpoints passages and complete that. It's only 3 passages total because there's only 1 conflicting viewpoint passage in each of the test. Actually, in the entire test, there's only 1 passage that's conflicting viewpoints. Make sure you do 3 of them. So that's 75 questions for English, and it's about 18 questions for science. So get started.